for the country St. Maarten and the Ministry of Finance in particular. Minister of Finance, Ms. Gomes, you have the floor.
Madam Chair Lady, honorable members of Parliament, colleagues in the Council of Ministers, esteemed support staff, members of the media, distinguished guests in the public gallery, radio and social media viewers, residents of our beloved island, ladies and gentlemen, all under the sound of my voice, good afternoon and blessed week. Allow me, Madam Chair, to extend condolences to the families of the dearly departed. May their souls rest in peace and rise in glory. Allow me as well to extend a very happy, healthy, and prosperous New Year to the honorable members of Parliament, my colleague ministers and their families, and to the people of St. Maarten. Madam Chair, we live in an uncertain world. Events which we have no control over will continue to impact our finances, our economy, our lives in this new year. How we respond to the ever-changing, ever-radicalizing global circumstances will determine how well we will be able to survive. In elaborating the draft 2025 budget, which is before you for debate and approval, we have analyzed the financial outlook for the coming year, taking into account the forecasts of international institutions like the IMF and those of the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Maarten. Respectively, they project a gross domestic product, GDP, for 2025 of approximately 3.1 billion guilders for St. Maarten. Similarly, the inflation rate is expected to hover between 1.9 and 2.3% for 2025. This has been factored into this draft budget. In view of the uncertainties, both global and domestic, we have decided to submit a conservative budget, especially because it is not yet clear when ongoing initiatives will yield higher revenues and how large those revenues would be. This draft budget therefore focuses on continuity, aimed at stabilizing our finances, rather than embarking on new, ambitious, large-scale policy initiatives that would result in our expenditures ballooning out of control and mandatory budget amendments. Government believes that this is not the time to include unsubstantiated financial initiatives in the 2025 budget and has consequently chosen this cautious, conservative approach. At this crucial time, prudent financial husbandry demands that we make intelligent choices that will ensure that we dig ourselves out of the hole we are in while simultaneously introducing new initiatives which can be incorporated later into a budget amendment, especially once we see that the funds or cuts are substantiated and achievable. However, Madam Chair, permit me to stress that the future is not bleak at all. Far from it. According to the IMF, opportunities for economic growth remain in 2025. There are several sectors which we have not yet fully explored that offer great potential for further development and diversification of our economy. Through strategic investments and policy measures, these sectors can be better utilized to enhance St. Maarten's economic resilience. Without doubt, this government will continue to do all within its powers to ensure a sustainable and prosperous future for the island. Perhaps it is relevant at this point, Madam Chair, to explain what we are gathered here to do. The budget is the most important policy document that Parliament has to debate and approve. It is not a wish list for government or politicians to score political points. One of the main tasks of government is to manage the resources, especially the financial resources and other assets of the people in a reasonable, efficient, and effective manner. Hence, policy initiatives must take into account how much is in government coffers and which areas must be prioritized in terms of allocation of these resources. It is common knowledge that our government coffers are not buoyant. Even the critics of this budget know that. Therefore, it is imperative that we take heed of the popular saying, cut your coat according to your size. In fact, Madam Chair, I would amend that saying as follows: cut your coat according to your cloth. Everybody would love to drive a Ferrari. However, if the amount of money you have can only buy you an Atos, what choices do you have other than to ask Santa to bring you a Ferrari next Christmas? I humbly submit, Madam Chair, that a nation that has accumulated a debt of over 1 billion guilders since October 10, 2010, does not have the luxury of a Ferrari at this point in time. As I have stated before, St. Maarten's public debt has surpassed 1 billion guilders. Despite this, our debt as a country is still considered reasonable, as our debt to GDP ratio is approximately 34%. What is key is how we manage this debt in totality. Madam Chair, I would like to inform Parliament through you that one of the ways I am exploring to deal with our mounting debt problem is to negotiate a debt swap with the Netherlands. It is not a new approach, as several other jurisdictions are using this strategy to lessen their debt. What it simply means is that once such an agreement is reached, we would be able to redirect the amount we are supposed to be paying on our debt to other areas such as green energy and environmental projects or other investments. I spoke earlier, Madam Chair, about uncertainties, both local and global, that have informed our cautious approach to the 2025 budget. Maybe I should rephrase that and talk about challenges instead of uncertainties. We began the new year with an unprecedented surge in crime that has claimed several lives, particularly of our young people. My heartfelt condolences once again to the families and friends that have been affected by these tragic incidents. I am a mother too. No parents should be burying their children as a result of violent crime. We must come together as a nation, both North and South, to find ways to resolve this senseless loss of lives. It is not only a moral obligation, but also something that affects the main pillar of our economy, tourism. It was the co-founder of the Democratic Party, the late Dr. Claude Watty, who reportedly said, tourism does not leave an island. Tourism is driven from an island. He was thinking of what happened to St. Croix in the 1980s, when a sharp rise in violent crimes drove many tourists away from that island. I am sure we do not want a similar situation to occur here. If there is an urgent need for the people of the island, it is for us to get a good handle on crime. Madam Chair, with that said, permit me to get into the nitty-gritty of the proposed 2025 budget, which, if you allow me, I would like to christen the stabilizing budget. During this presentation, the following key topics will be addressed. Budget principles. Number 2, budget process. 3, multi-annual income and expenses, projections for 2025 through 2027 on economic forecast. 4, 2024 budget amendment versus 2025 draft budget. 5, capital investments. 6, loan overview. 7, key government entities. Financial status and strategies for key entities. 8, strategic focus of the Ministry of Finance. 9, structure of the Ministry of Finance. 10, expenses and income of the Ministry of Finance. 11, key goals, policies, and initiatives on which my focus will be for the year 2025. The 2025 budget is based on the 2024 budget amendment and does not include any new policies, initiatives. This approach is a direct result of the multiple elections held last year in consultation with the CFT. It was agreed that this conservative approach would be the best way to avoid additional delays in approving the budget for 2025. What does no new policies mean? It means no unachievable or unsubstantiated revenue assumptions or cost-cutting measures. This budget is conservative and only includes matters that are already in the pipeline. For example, in previous years, revenue items such as the tourist tax were included without completing the necessary groundwork, which resulted in unrealistic income projections and mandatory budget cuts/amendments. In this budget, you will not find transaction taxes, tourist entry taxes, or revenue increases due to higher fees on or policy changes. While there are plans to increase revenue and reduce costs, for example, through better management of government vehicles and travel expenses, these measures will only be included when the supporting financial data has been verified to ensure they are realistic and achievable in 2025. Not including them in the budget does not mean that they would not be worked on. During this presentation, I will delve into the initiatives and goals for the Ministry of Finance for the year 2025. Matters such as the 2% indexation and the 1% increase in vacation allowance for both civil servants and subsidized schools are included in the 2025 budget. The reason they have been included is because these specific laws have already been reviewed by the Council of Advice and are much further in the process, which means realistically they will be completed in 2025. Failing to move forward with this budget and further delaying the budget would put us in the same position as last year, where delays meant waiting for the budget to be enacted before paying out these balances. The budget cycle actually requires approval before the start of the new year. Despite 2 elections, the ministries have worked diligently to prepare this budget, addressing essential needs. Vacancies included in the 2024 budget amendment remain in the 2025 budget. These are positions where the hiring process has already started and must continue upon enactment of the budget. Why a conservative approach? A conservative approach budget prioritizes caution and financial stability through realistic projections. It is easier to add to the budget later based on improved revenues or unforeseen needs than to remove items after commitments have been made. This approach allows the new government time to assess its policy priorities and determine which initiatives are realistic for inclusion in a 2025 budget amendment. Not all new policies or ideas should automatically be included in the budget. Their inclusion depends on the time required, the necessary trajectory, and when they can realistically affect revenue or expenses. Furthermore, the absence of a policy in the budget does not prevent work from starting. The budget reflects the year in which revenue or expenses will be realistically adjusted based on measures taken. The goal is to create realistic budgets. Ideally, any future amendments will focus on increasing revenue based on actual results, rather than reducing overstated income and expenses. This ensures better financial planning and stability while reducing the need for frequent amendments in Parliament. This approach allows us to avoid overestimating income, which can lead to shortfalls, while ensuring that expenditures are carefully managed. By planning conservatively, we create the flexibility to address unexpected challenges, such as economic fluctuations, emergencies, or unplanned costs. This method reflects responsible financial management, prioritizing sustainability and adaptability to ensure we are prepared to seize opportunities and mitigate risks as they arise. As Minister of Finance, I firmly believe this is a fundamental, sound financial governance. Revenue estimates for the 2025 budget are based on historical data from Q2 of 2024, forecasted and adjusted to align with GDP projections. Similarly, expenditure estimates are grounded in Q2 data, with necessary adjustments for inflation, union agreements, and existing obligations. As this is a policy-neutral budget, the potential for substantial surpluses in 2024 and 2025 is limited. The 2025 draft budget includes only initiatives that began in 2024 and are expected to continue into 2025, alongside the anticipated effects of economic growth. Preparations for the 2025 budget began early 2024. The budget process, which takes approximately 9 months to complete, starts at the beginning of the year with income projections for the following year. This is followed by the allocation of resources to the various ministries and high councils, as well as the collection and compilation of relevant information. It is crucial that all ministries submit their respective budgets timely. For the 2026 budget, this will be a key priority, with each minister responsible for ensuring the timely submission of their ministry's draft budget. The first draft of the 2025 budget was submitted to the Council of Ministers on September 4th. This delay occurred because in May 2024, the amendment of the 2024 budget became a priority, delaying the 2025 budget. On September 13th, the 2025 budget was sent simultaneously to CFT for their Article 11 advice and to Yazet and Way for a legal assessment. The CFT returned their Article 11 advice within 2 weeks, within a 2-week review period on September 27th, and the Yazet and Way legal advice followed on October 16th, a month after submission. After incorporating these inputs, the budget was resubmitted to the Council of Ministers for approval. It was then forwarded to the Council of Advice on November 5th, whose feedback was received on December 2nd. The necessary changes were made to the 2025 budget based on the feedback from the Council of Advice. The final draft, including the NADA report, was approved by the Council of Ministers on December 10th. And subsequently submitted to the Governor on December 11th for presentation to Parliament. On December 18th, 2024, we have commenced the Central Committee meeting on the 2025 budget, and today, January 13th, 2025, we commenced with the public meeting. As Minister of Finance, I will present an overview of the total budget during this public meeting, highlighting the key aspects of the 2025 budget, and will then specifically delve into the Ministry of Finance. In addition, each minister will provide a detailed presentation outlining their ministry's expense, income, and intentions for the year 2025. The Article 11 advice received from CFT, which stated an improvement to the notes to the budget, highlighted 3 key points. 1, adjust the budget to reflect the most recent actual figures. At the time of compiling the budget, the most recent actual figures available were from Q2 of 2024, and these were used as the basis. The Q3 report was recently submitted to both Parliament and the CFT. However, the 2025 budget remains grounded in Q2 figures. Number 2, properly incorporate the repayment of liquidity support loans. This relates to the liquidity loans of 316 million guilders, which were linked to the ENIA solution. Initially, the interest rate was 6.8%, but following Parliament's approval of the solution, the rate has reduced to 2.9%. At the time of the Article 11 advice, this matter was unresolved and the advice was precautionary. The current interest rate for those loans now reflect the agreed 2.9%. There are no repayments in this budget for these loans because the first repayment commences in the year 2039. Regarding the investment loans of 132 million guilders for GEBE mental health facilities and the prison, the interest rate was initially set at 3.4% conservatively, with a total loan amount of 132 million. However, based